Go ahead, Nick.
I'd like to call this meeting to order for the voting session on April 21st, 2022. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Colleen, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ambrose,
Here.
Mr. Bloom,
Here.
DeCenzo.
Here.
Mr. Moad,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Mr. Ross,
Here.
Mr. Zarista, Ms. Belcastro.
Okay, thank you.
Your public comments, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think everybody here's, you've all been here. Do we need to review the decorum for the meetings?
Don't get unruly.
All right, I do ask this though, Colleen reminded me, if you do make public comment, make sure you sign the sheet so that we have it. Okay?
Thank you. There's no public comments on agenda items.
No, you have to.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm sure I'll have more questions after the presentation, but before I forget, will you be voting on the reading series at next month's meeting at May? And I'm assuming that this presentation will be put on the website after tonight,
It'll be part, it just as the
part of it?
video, as it's streamed, it'll be there.
Okay,
She's supposed to.
I'll be up here again later, probably. Thank you.
Sign the sheet.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Number 4, minutes. Number 1, to approve the voting session minutes from March 17th, 2022, found on attachment A. Motion by Mr. Bloom, seconded by Mr. Moad. Anybody against the motion? Thank you. The motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Treasurer's report, Mr. King.
Number 1, the following bills and reports are submitted for approval. Pay bills. Confirm the March 2022 general fund payments in the amount of $1,580,767.95. Attachment B. Number 2, confirm the March 2022 cafeteria fund payments in the amount of $71,027.28. Report to approve the March 2022 Berkheimer report, attachment D. I'll make that motion.
We have a second. Mr. Bloom again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Hearing that, the motion carries. Agenda items. Board policy items. Number 1, be it resolved that the Board of School Directors of the Central Valley School District hereby approves and adopts the adjudication agreement for student number 1002062. And number 2, be it resolved that the Board of School Directors of the Central Valley School District hereby approved and adopt the adjudication agreement for student number 1001346. Do I have a motion on that? Mr. Ross, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Negotiation items, Mr. O'Neill.
The only thing we have in the works is we're working on Mr. Malley's extended contract. Trying to get some of his help after he takes his retirement, but they're still working on that.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Anything else under negotiation items? And that's a non-voting thing, just an information piece. Okay. Item C, education items. Mr. Ross, chairperson.
Yes, we're going to have a presentation this evening by the committee for the kindergarten through 5th grade reading series. We might as well do that now. Is that what this is?
It's not the presentation.
Is that in separate?
I'm gonna stand over here because I have my notes that I'm using. So, good evening. So myself, Ms. Farragotti, Ms. Kasanovich, and Ms. Park are going to be presenting the findings of the K-5 reading program evaluation. We're going to present this tonight. I provided you some materials I emailed to you for you to review. Then this will go up for a public review for a month. And then I'll go over the details of how it's going to work at the end. And then we're going to ask that you vote on the new program at the May voting session. So to provide you a there we go. Provide you a little background information on the current K-5 reading series. In the spring of 2015, a district signed a multi-year contract with HMH for all core subject areas, English, math, science, and social studies. Journeys, which is the current HMH series we use, was the ELA solution, K-5, and was the first subject to be implemented in that original contract. That original contract was scheduled to run through June of 2021. We extended our contract with HMH for ELA for one additional year. Due to COVID, we couldn't do any of the committee work we wanted to do. So that contract was extended through June of 2022, which is the end of this school year. Part of the work we did with HMH Journeys is we took the textbooks and we aligned them to PA core standards. So what we did was we put committees together, we deconstructed the journeys, familiarized the teachers with the standards and the relationships journeys had to the test scores. And then that work resulted in teacher-created focus walls. Focus walls are what the beginning of each unit had to do in journeys in order to set up the lesson for the school year. And this is just an example. On the left were the focus walls that Journeys had in their program. On the right were the focus walls that we created internally that had all the PA Common Core standards associated with them and any additional materials needed to cover those standards. We did that work in grades 2 to 5, by the way. There were some things in Journeys that were still needed above and beyond what they provided initially. We needed our teams of teachers, as well as the data we looked at, determined they needed explicit instruction in phonics, K to 3. We needed some oral reading fluency supports, 3 to 5. Our students needed increased exposure to nonfiction literature in 3 to 5. And then we needed better solutions for TDAs, text-dependent analysis in grades 4 and 5. Some of the supplementals that we put together, whether it's something we did in-house or something we purchased for Journeys, included teacher-created materials, open education resources, magazine subscriptions and decodable books, phonics skills programs such as Hegarty and K2, Inspire for learning support, and then evidence-based reading fluency programs such as Read Naturally in grades 3 to 5. Those programs were purchased above and beyond Journeys in order to meet the needs where Journeys didn't quite match. I'm going to turn this over to the principals. They're going to give you a little background on Title I and learning support.
Thanks, Eddie. So when we talk about Title I support, we look at the triangle. We have 3 sections of the triangle. The lowest part, which is the green section, that's considered our Tier 1 section. That should be about 80 to 85% of our students. That's the normal instruction. They should be at grade level or above grade level. When we look at Tier 2, we look at our differentiated instruction. Those are students who are starting to slightly fall behind Thank you. They're demonstrating progress, but they need some support. That should be about 15 to 20% of our students. And then when you look at that top tier, those are our students that really struggle. It's 1 to 5%. They are one or more years behind, and they need severe interventions to make sure that we can get them caught up.
So when we're looking at our supports that we provide to our students, if you look at the tier 2 and tier 3 support for reading at Center Grange, we have 141 students in kindergarten, and in the fall, we had 24 students who qualified for tier 2 and tier 3. And then in winter, it went down a few to 22. In grade 1, we have 173 total students, and in the fall, there were 29. And in the winter, it does jump up historically because of the harder content and the harder skills that we were working on in first grade. So it went to 35. In grade 2, we have a total of 165 students. And in the fall, we had 34 who qualified, and it does go down as the year progresses because they do gain some more skills, and we had 29. And if you look at our learning support numbers, we have 11% learning support students, and we have 33% of economically disadvantaged students, which most of those students that are economically disadvantaged are participating in our program. So if we're looking at Title II services in reading, we do that support during our ACE time, our academic instructional support time, which is 30 minutes in both grades 1 and 2. It is for 4 days a week. And the instruction is provided by the classroom teachers and our ASAP or Title I support teachers. In kindergarten, it looks a little different. It's 2 to 5 days per week for 20 minutes, which are pull-out sessions. And the instruction is provided by our ASAP or Title I paraprofessional. In grades 1 and 2, there are 3 days a week of 30-minute pull-out sessions also. And the instruction there is provided by our Title I ASAP support teachers. So that was Title II. This is now Title III. Title II is the mid-range of support. Title III is the intensive support that we give our students. So for Title III, Tier 3, ACE time is also used, that 30 minutes for grades 1 and 2, that 4 days a week. And that instruction, though, is provided primarily by our ASAP Title I support teachers. In kindergarten, this is where our developmental kindergarten comes into play. So that looks a little different, where our EDDK is 5 days per week. Those students are with us all day long. They go to their regular ed classroom for half a day and to the developmental classroom half a day. And in grades 1 and 2, it is 5 days per week, 30-minute pull-out sessions, which are also done with some of the students. And the instruction is also provided by the Title I ASAP support teachers.
So when we look at Todd Lane's numbers in grade 3, we have 167 students. We have 6 students that qualify in the fall and 11 in winter. In the 4th grade, we have 174 students. We have 10 that qualify in the fall and the same in the winter. And grade 5, we have in the fall 17, in the winter 17. As you can see, our numbers start to progress. I do believe that the Title I program at Center Grange addresses a lot of the fluency issues. And then once they come to our building, it is more application issues. And as we go through the grades from going from grade 3, 4, and 5, the application gets harder. In my building, we also, our learning support is 18% and economically disadvantaged is 33%. So when we talk about Todd Lane supports, it is given by my ASAP teachers. We also have ACE time, which is at the end of the day. It's a 30-minute time allotment. It is 4 times a week. It is bi-weekly because we also have math. So 1 week we do reading and then another week we do math. They also provide push-in support to the reading classes. Students will receive support for 60 to 90 minutes each week, and that's Title II. If you look at our Title III services, ACE time, it's also 30 minutes per week, and it's the bi-weekly, and they receive that support in the classroom. So talking about background information and DIBELS is Mrs. Kasanovich.
So when looking at a new reading program to adopt, we need to look at the skills that the students are needing. So the ones that they have a deficit in. So this graph shows us, and there are subsequent graphs after this, of our DIBELS scores. And this is just kindergarten right now. So if you're looking at the green, the yellow, and the red. The green is that part of the triangle where the students are doing fine, that they don't need any support. That yellow area is where the strategic students are, which need some support. And the red is the intensive support. So these are different skills that we are working on at Center Grange. And so the skills that we want to focus on need to be in the program. So these are some skills like first sound fluency and nonsense words. So we look at those skills and we match them up with a program that possibly could be better for us to use to address these skills. And the red is where we're looking at. It should be only 1 to 5% in each of those graphs. And if you look at them, they are upwards of 20% in some of those graphs. So we needed to find a program that would address those skills. And if you keep going through, those are the same, it's the same thing as you progress through all of the grades.
So we're looking at PSSA data. We know that third grade is the first grade for testing. So they have their foundational skills that they get at Center Grange, and third grade is the application. As you can see, we have 3 categories. We have our literature text, we have nonfiction, and we have language. There are 3 categories. If you look at the chart, you can see how we are scoring across all the categories for grade 3. Looking at grade 4, there's 4 categories. So you have your literature text, your informational text, your language, and then that TDA, the writing component. As you can see across the board, that's how we are scoring in 4th grade. And the same reporting categories are for 5th grade. And that's how 5th grade is scoring. The important thing to know is as we progress from 3rd to 4th to 5th, the skills get harder. So if students do not have those foundational skills, such as sounding out words or good oral fluency, it is going to affect their comprehension, which we are seeing here in grades 3, 4, and 5.
So before you dive into the evaluation, what's your big takeaway for those of us who are not familiar with DIBELS, we're not familiar with the assessment anchors, and, we don't take PSSA tests at Center Grange?
So
What's the big takeaway between the two?
So for DIBELS in Center Grange, we need to have those students, more of those students in the green area so that they are mastering those foundational skills before they get to 3rd grade in Todd Lane.
So my point is, what are the foundational skills in which you see them lacking at times?
Phoneme segmentation, where they can't segment the sounds in the words. And then that makes the reading become labored. They're concentrating on sounding all of the words out, but then they're not concentrating on the comprehension part of what the whole sentence is.
So then when they come out of Center Grange and they go into Todd Lane,
Correct.
and now you're asking them to comprehend what they're reading,
And apply the skills.
seeing that the comprehension numbers aren't as strong as they move up the ladder
This is correct.
because they've lacked some of those.
Right. They need those skills to be able to build their foundation of reading so that they can move on to comprehending.
Hence the purpose of a new reading series.
Reading series.
You're looking for something that's going to help teach those skills
Correct.
that when the kids come through the system, they'll be better
They'll
readers,
be better readers.
Better readers, and they'll be
And
able to comprehend it at a higher rate.
show better comprehension as they move up the ladder.
They won't be laboring over the reading.
And that will be shown obviously in our ELA scores, but then also in the other subject areas, because we know reading
Just look at
across the
graphs,
subjects.
understand
It's hard. Yeah.
exactly what it is.
Yep.
Are the areas of weakness.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, if I look at the DIBELS scores as the year goes on, the green grows.
Yes, it does.
We
Incrementally. Yep.
we want less red.
Less
We
red,
want
more
less red,
green.
more green. Yep.
What's happening is working. It's just not working.
Yes, it's just not working enough for us.
One other follow-up to that data. We showed you 1 year of data, but we looked at the previous multiple years of data. That data has been pretty consistent over the past, I would say, 4 or 5 years in DIBELS and the PSSAs. Moving on, now that you have some background information on on where we're currently at as far as our reading series, a committee with teachers was put together. Committee of teachers and administrators was put together to evaluate a new K-5 reading program. That evaluation process began during the opening teacher and service week in August. We had discussions regarding timeline, process, goals. We had those discussions before the presentations began from the various vendors. We picked a rubric to evaluate the programs. That rubric was based in research. That rubric was provided to the teachers before the first vendor walked in the door, so it helped them generate questions and take notes on the various programs. That rubric was titled the Rubric for Evaluating Reading and Language Arts Instruction Materials for Kindergarten through Grade 5. It was developed by Florida State University. It was based in research. It organized the content areas K2 and grades 3-5. The criteria for evidence-based practices that instructional materials are expected to include. And it covers all areas of concern, including the foundational skills with an emphasis on K3, as the principals just discussed with you. Without those foundational skills, the students are going to struggle later on in life. Meetings and demos were held in several of the formats, including pull-out with coverage, utilization of common planning time, and virtual meetings. The committee was made up of 2 teachers per grade level, K-5, building principal, special education director, and a curriculum team. Jen Litzinger and Marie Householder in kindergarten, Rachel Platts and Dana Belkifine in grade 1, Michelle Goodwill and Sarah Ball in grade 2, Marie Garaccio, Amanda Paletti in grade 3, Kira Beatrice and Virginia Marchanda in grade 4, Debbie Giuliani and Lisa Latchaw in grade 5, administrators Carla Kasanovich, Christina Farragotti, Aaron Park, and myself, and then the curriculum team, John Hyman and Beth Rosatone. Intervention materials were also reviewed by the K-5 Title I and some learning support teachers. K-5 program evaluation goals. We want a program that was aligned to Common Core standards. We want it to be based in the science of reading. We wanted a program that was going to result in increased test scores. We wanted a program that was going to address student literacy. We wanted a program that was going to make students independent readers. We wanted a heavy emphasis on phonological awareness, and we want students that be engaged by the content that they want to read. Research shows that development of students' foundational skills in grades K-3 must be heavily weighted when evaluating a new reading program. Foundational reading skills include phonological awareness, phonics, word recognition, and language skills that will have the most significant impact on a student's ability to learn. So this research just backs up what the principals and Ms. Park have been saying, that those foundational skills in grades K-3 are vital to the student's ability to read. So many of the traditional so as far as the programs we evaluated, something to understand here, many of the traditional large publishers no longer exist. So those of you that remember reading series 20, 30 years ago, and you had, a dozen different big publishers to pick from, that's not so much the case anymore. Many modern programs claim to be based in the science of reading. However, not all apply the philosophy in the same way or at the same level. Many modern programs claim to be aligned to Common Core standards, however, don't rate well in individual evaluations. Edreports.org is a program that we use quite a bit, and I'll go into a little bit of explanation of what that is here in a bit. 3 reading programs were selected to be evaluated based on alignment to Common Core standards and their integration of science of reading. That was HMH into Reading, that was the McGraw-Hill Wonders program, and Amplify CKLA. I'm going to turn this over to Carla and Aaron to explain a little bit about the science of reading. Who wants that? You're the clicker.
So you saw in a previous slide that one of the program goals was to look at something based in the science of reading. And that is something that a lot of people aren't familiar with. There's been a lot of research done. If you Google the science of reading, you're going to see a plethora of information. It's not one thing that you can Google and say, here is what it is. When you look at this slide here, it is research that's done across an interdisciplinary body of scientific areas: cognitive psychology, special education, school psychology, linguistics. There's a lot of people that are taking a look at brain development and how do students start to develop their reading patterns, in what way should we be approaching reading, how are students and individuals understanding what they're reading. So that all comes down to the science of reading. The most simple way to explain that to everyone is that we take two components. You have your language comprehension and your word recognition, and you put that together, and you need to have an equal balance of both to get your reading proficiency. So those two areas, can you get back? Sorry.
That was me.
Language comprehension and word recognition. So one of the most widely used views of this in the education world is what's called the Scarborough's reading rope. You should be able to find that easily. And it's just a visual representation of what this needs to look like across reading development for individuals. So it's just what you see there. It's a rope. And if you look at the far end to the left where that line is, and you see language comprehension, and then you see various areas in that. And I need glasses. I'm gonna have to move to my slides here. Background knowledge, vocabulary, language structures, verbal reasoning, literacy knowledge. Those are all the different areas that make up language comprehension. And for the rest of you who can't read that small print, when we're talking about background knowledge, we're building facts and concepts and information for students to have that they can draw upon. For vocabulary, we want them to be making links across different words and understanding how words have different meanings. We're looking at the semantics of language. When we look at language structures, verbal reasoning, can students make inferences? How do they identify metaphors? And then literacy knowledge is just those basic print concepts. We read from left to right. What does it look like on a page? Various genres. And each of those skills, if you look at the very left-hand side of the rope, are at the early development levels, preschool, kindergarten, those skills are taught in isolation. So that's why those ropes are looking to be separated at that point. The second part of what makes up reading proficiency, in addition to language comprehension, is the word recognition piece. We're looking at phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition. So phonological awareness talks about the phoneme segmentation that Ms. Donovan referenced, identifying syllables within words. When we're decoding, we're doing letter sound correspondence. And sight word recognition is that recognition of familiar words that you can't sound out. So we take all of those skills in isolation as students go through kindergarten, first grade, and then you see those ropes start to intertwine together. All of those language comprehension pieces together, all of the word recognition pieces together. And then as you start to get to the middle of the rope, third, fourth, fifth grade, you start to see those really tight strands of the green and the blue start to then intertwine. And just like a rope, if you have a loose strand in your rope, if my green strands are not tight or firm and I try to connect them with my blue, my rope is not as strong. But if everything is tightly connected together and all of those skills are very firm, the stronger my rope is going to be, the stronger, in this case, my reading skills and my reading development is going to be. So it's important that we have a good balance of both of those components when we're looking at a reading series.
Yeah. All right, so what is edreports.org? You heard me reference this earlier. Edreports.org was launched in 2015. It's an independent nonprofit that seeks to identify high-quality instructional materials used using expert educators who deeply understand the standards and importance of high-quality instructional materials. EdReports publishes reviews every year using grade-appropriate indicators such as text quality, knowledge building, standards alignment, and usability. So how they operate the review criteria is they have 3 gateways. Gateways 1 and 2 Gateway 1 and 2 focus on questions of alignment to the standards. They ask questions such as, are the instructional materials aligned to the standards? Are all standards present and treated with the appropriate depth and quality required to support student learning? If both of those meet, then they'll move on to standard 3, which focuses on the question of usability. Are the instructional materials user-friendly for students and educators? And materials must be well-designed to facilitate student learning and enhance a teacher's ability to differentiate and build knowledge within the classroom. Why am I going through this? That's everything I actually just read to you. Because I wanted to show you these 2 reports here. And I know that's tiny, but what I want you to focus on are the colors. So HMH into Reading was one of the first programs we reviewed. That was actually eliminated fairly early on in the process. None of the teachers were huge fans of the way that program was organized, K-5. The other two programs we looked at, the next one was McGraw-Hill Wonders and Amplify CKLA. We pulled the reports for Wonders and we pulled the reports for Amplify. Both programs rate very well in text quality, building knowledge, usability, and they're all aligned to the standards. So from that point, both programs moved on to the next phase of our review. And this is the same report, just grades 3 to 5. First report was K2. We sat through a few different evaluations of the programs. The teachers then had an opportunity to fill out the rubrics for each of those programs independently. That rubric was on a 1 to 5 scale, with 1 being criteria was not met, 5 being criteria was completely met. Just so you understand, the primary school rubric had 10 additional questions related to foundational skills. So you remember earlier, I said K to 3 was going to be weighted a little more than 3 to 5 due to the importance of those skills. Again, this is tiny, but the results of those rubrics starts at kindergarten, works its way to grade 5, with the bottom being overall. You could see in grades kindergarten, first grade, and then second grade was a tie. Amplify was blue, Wonders was red, Amplify edged ahead, especially in K to 2. Grade 3, Amplify was well ahead of Wonders. And then grades 4 and 5, Wonders, which is also a very good program, edged out Amplify. In the overall score, Amplify came ahead by fractions of a point. But again, we knew from the beginning that both programs were good programs. Our recommendation after administrative discussion, looking at the data we had on hand, looking at the results of the rubrics, sitting through the demos ourselves, was Amplify CKLA.
All right, so why Amplify? It's aligned to our Common Core standards. It's based on the science of reading. If you can see on when Ms. Park talked about the science of reading, it targets those skills that we feel that students need to be stronger in, those phonological skills. And it's better addresses oral fluency. We know if you're a better oral reader, then that will make it easier for you to comprehend and apply the skills. It increases exposure to the nonfiction literature, which previously in the PSSA scores, we know that's a component that's assessed in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade and beyond. It better addresses deficiencies in the foundational reading skills, phonological awareness, phonics, word recognition, language skills, and the content is interesting and engaging. So here's kind of like a bigger report of the ed reports. If you want to look at that, that's kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. And then there's 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And this is just a breakdown of the scores that Eddie talked about. This is the K through 3 rating on Amplify and Wonders.
Again, I'm showing you this because I just want to come back to how important we emphasize those foundational skills, K to 3, and in the teacher's opinion, the K 3 teachers, what they felt between the two programs.
And we reinsert this quote because, as Eddie just said, research shows this development of students' foundational skills in grades K through 3 must be heavily weighted when evaluating a new reading program. That is the most important. We know those foundational skills will predict if they're able to apply them later on.
So I'm just going to give you a brief program overview of what Amplify is going to provide us. We're proposing a 6-year contract with Amplify, research-based lessons, integrating those foundational literacy skills and cross-curricular content knowledge. It will be provided with teacher guides, projectable lesson components, a digital hub, Quest for the Core, which is problem-solving projects for the kids, a lot of professional development, including on-site in-person coaching within the classroom for the teachers, teacher resource websites, and novel guides and trade books, which are supplemental and optional materials. Student materials that they'll be provided, students are going to have readers just like any other reading series, traditional books, they'll have electronic access as well, but we're not proposing to go fully electronic with our reading series. We still think it's vital that kids have books in their hands. So student readers, consumable activity books / workbooks that will be refreshed every year. Formative assessments. Fourth and fifth grade get this poets journals and writing journals. There's a lot of writing built in through this program. There's a handwriting component to this program. None of that is going away. Hands-on phonics materials, sensory phonics, foundational skills resources, giving students opportunities to practice. Big books, large and small letter cards, spelling cards, vowel and consonant code flip books, chaining folders. They can speak to what this stuff is better than I can, but it's stuff that our teachers will use, our Title I teachers will use, support will use those things, probably our speech teachers as well.
Yes.
So that concludes the presentation on the program.
So before you go to questions from the board, to Carla, Aaron, everybody, speak to the approach to reading. Very scripted, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's very scripted.
That's different. How that's different than the traditional approach.
Right. The traditional approach is the teachers can pick and choose what is in the teacher's manual to say, and they don't have to say it in a certain way or teach it in a certain way. This program is much more scripted so that the approach is that we need to teach it systematically and explicitly so that the students all get the same instruction and learn it the same way. It's also, you start with K to 3. The sounds are the important part to start with. And that's not always been the case with reading. You need to start with the sounds so that the kids know the sounds and can identify the sounds with the letters and identify the letters after the sound is taught. So it takes a little different approach to learning how to read. But it's explicit and the teachers will have a scripted program so that everyone is on the same page.
So what they're hearing at the lowest level in kindergarten, the terminology is going to carry.
It's going to carry through all the way. The teachers are going to have the same verbiage and the same communication with the students all the way through.
Okay. First of all, Mr. Eidner, thank you very much for the presentation and your presenters, Ms. Fargotti, Ms. Park, and Mrs. Kasanovich. You guys did a nice job. So I guess there's more to flashcards and popcorn words. Is that what it's called? Popcorn words?
They do.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, there'll still be a need, like you were saying with Journeys, there was still a need for other supplemental material, whether teacher created or purchased. Is there still a need with Amplify to do those things?
So there's no series is perfect.
Right.
Not even Amplify is perfect. It's much, much better than what we had. So there's always going to be a need to supplement something. There is another piece to this. There's a huge intervention piece that we're in the process of looking at now called M-Class. We're still going through a review process of that. It kind of enhances what we already do with Dibbles and some other things. So we'll probably be coming back to the board with a presentation on that as well during the summer, I would guess. There's always going to be something. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be stuff that we may eliminate, like through this new program. And again, they can speak to this more than I can. Is Haggerty still necessary?
Yes,
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Haggerty does match with this program very well because it does some of the same it addresses some of the same concepts and it also has the same progression of skills. So that they may marry.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
But we need to look at all of that.
So
And then this is going to be a change for the teachers, training.
this is a big shift in the way they approach reading. But doing things we've always done it is still.
He's asking, are we going to train the teachers?
Yes.
How is the,
So
Yes, and we have some
Yes.
teachers who have already gone through patent trainings and have been researching on their own.
Yes.
They're already implementing some of these things, so we'll be able to do some coaching with some of our
Yes.
internal staff that we already have.
but I guess more to you, Dr. Perry, time set aside previous to the start of the school year to train.
So once we adopt a program, first thing we're gonna do is get the stuff in the teacher's hands. And yes, we have professional development is built into the purchase, and then it'll be built into our professional development days that we have throughout the year.
And we've even tried to get a lot of things that we would maybe do at the beginning of the year done here in May. We're trying to, so we have more time at the beginning of the year to provide time for the teachers.
And I think one thing that, I mean, I hope you've learned about me and the way we've approached PD with everything we've done since we've done the iPads is we no longer do the one and done professional development. They're going to get their multiple days of initial PD, and then that PD is going to be ongoing for however long it needs to be ongoing to make sure that our teachers have everything they need to teach what they need to teach properly.
Thank you, guys.
But just, not that these would be the only days, but
Well, they're gonna need things ahead of.
I don't know how many schools do, like our first 5 days are all in service days.
Right.
We come back. So we do professional development the first week the teachers are here. Where it used to be you do a day and the kids are here and you don't get anything done. Where now we gave ourselves a week of professional development, get things ready for the start of the school year. So there is time to do those things and we're not just rushing in with 1 day of an in-service and then we start school.
And just to comment, one of the things that I liked about the program, when we reviewed it as a committee and when I stopped up the other day, there's a lot of overlap among subjects. You have a lot of history, and if you can match that up with what they're doing in their history classes, you get a double whammy. A lot of writing involved, and a lot of fluency in writing, which I used to be involved with a lot more. And the fluency you can really see in writing. Probably it's more apparent than what you can see in reading, because you'll see elementary kids using a lot of fragments and you try to teach them complete thoughts in sentences. Then in the middle school, you start to see, and in Todd Lane, you'd start to see compounds, and you get long rambling sentences like I went to the store and I saw this and I went here and I went home.
Yeah.
By the time you're getting into the middle school, you're starting to use complex sentences. Ooh. And they're starting to see the relationship between time and space. And it just progresses and it starts to take off by your high school years. And fluency itself seems to me to be pushed by content and by knowledge, which I noticed in some of the slides too. But a kindergartner doesn't know a lot of things. So he doesn't have the skills to read. And if he could write, he couldn't say a lot about any subject because he doesn't know a lot of things. The more they learn in these content areas will be reinforced by what's in the readers. And I think you'll get more of a bang for your buck. And that was, I saw a lot of science. I saw a lot of history, a lot of geography. And of course, with any of these texts these days, we're trying to get more diversity and such, but that's going to happen anyway.
I'd like to say, again, thank you, and you had a nice presentation, and you can see that the committee and all the people involved in this put a lot of time and research into this, so I think it's well thought out, and you guys did a really nice job with it. Okay. In saying that, with this reading, we had talked earlier about comprehension. You know, kids could read, but comprehending what they read, okay? Will this series help that? Can you predict something like that?
Well, we're hoping that those foundational skills that they learn in K to 2, almost K to 3 really, that those will carry them into comprehending better because they will be reading more fluently and not worrying about what's this
Sounding
word,
every
sounding
word.
the word out. They will then be able to just read fluently for comprehension. They won't have to worry about what the word is and labor over words. So that should help and take care of itself.
Going back, if you look at our test results and we look at not just PSSAs, but if you take the DIBELS, which test those types of fluency skills,
Yes.
the two match up, that where students are lacking with fluency are the same ones who are lacking with comprehension.
Mhm.
So if we can improve the fluency of some of our kids, those kids are going to improve their comprehension when they come through.
And don't forget the other component that Mr. O'Neill said about with building all that background knowledge. The more background knowledge I have, the easier it's going to be for me to understand something that I have a vague recollection of because I've heard it before. It's not new content to me. It's not something brand new. The more we can build that repertoire for students, the more they have to draw from.
Reading is the only subject that affects every subject a kid ever takes. So make a student a better reader, Now you're improving not just reading and English, math, science, social studies, encore classes, everything.
But we started this a while ago, reading across the curriculum. That's all part of it too, right?
Reading and writing across curriculum. Oh, yeah.
Reading across the curriculum. So
Yep. Absolutely. Reading and writing. All of our teachers are required to have the students provide writings across the district.
and thank you. You guys did a nice job.
Any other questions?
So I sent the board an email with this presentation, additional materials for you to look at, provided you with a program guide, have an electronic version of that email as well. And as far as the timeline goes, I know I put it in an email, but we're looking, ask you to approve this program in May. There is a public review for the program. If you want to come and look at the materials, any member of the public, they'll do that by calling their building principal. One of the building principals, either Carla or Christina, and scheduling a time to come in and look at that. And they will assist with that.
Yeah, the materials will be in each of the elementary buildings. Please set up a meeting with the principals. Understand the principals also have a job to do. So they'll create a time schedule versus people just walking in off the street.
Will this be on our website for community to see what was just presented tonight?
So
We broadcast.
stream this live.
I thought maybe after. Okay.
We streamed this live and the presentation was not just a camera pointing, but I actually had it shared in the video. So they'll see everything and hear everything.
Into the meeting.
And Ed, another thing, by the way, thank you for all the work that you've put in on this, and make sure that you contact John and Beth. And
I
thank
will.
them too for all, this was a lot of work.
They're watching live as well.
This was a lot of work. Thanks, folks.
And I'd like to thank all of our teachers that were on the committee. Because
Absolutely.
they were unbelievably thorough in really doing a great job at reviewing all of the programs. As they really researched, and then they even took back and, like we said, they went back to their classrooms and tried some of these things and got some really good results. So kudos to them. They did a great job.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've got an item, two items to
I
go.
know. Mr. Ross, you have a few items yet?
Yes, I do. Number one, to approve, confirm, and the release time staff development requests. That'd be brought up on the screen.
Yeah, he's trying to get over.
How about if I wait a little bit? Okay. The conference and location is listed in the left-hand column. The individuals attending the conference and the dates that they will be attending the conference are listed on the right. Two, to approve a memorandum and understanding with Private Industry Council of Westmoreland Fayette Incorporated to operate the pre-K count program at Todd Lane through June 30th, 2023, pending review of the solicitor. So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Now you gotta do two, number one.
Okay. So you have a motion on items one
So
and
moved. One and two.
seconded by Mr. King. All in favor, say aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carried. Thank you again for the presentation. Technology, Mr. Moad, chairperson.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving over to athletics, Mr. King, our chairperson.
Number one, to approve Jack Shearer as boys varsity soccer coach at a salary of $3,500 pending receipt, review, and acceptance of all clearances. FYI, the athletic committee is recommending the return of the following winter coaches. Boys basketball, Brandon Ambrose; girls basketball, Chris Rasso; cheerleading, Heather Samovsky; swimming, Larry Polochak; gymnastics, Terry Gazda; wrestling, Kevin Rose. I make a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ross. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carried. Thank you. Extracurricular activities, DeCenzo chairperson. DeCenzo is a little under the weather. Her activities. Number one, to grant final approval for 8th and 9th grade students participating in the honors curriculum to attend a trip to Gettysburg, PA, Sharpsburg, Maryland, Manassas, Virginia, Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, and Sharpsburg, Maryland, from May 11, 2022 through May 12, 2022. There's also a FYI regarding field trips to destination, the group, and the date. I'll make a motion on item number one.
Second.
Seconded by Mr.
O'Neill.
O'Neill. Thank you, Joe. I had to think about that a minute. Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carried. I'll write that down.
That's why I had to write it.
Real quick, if you don't mind, just a quick building and grounds update on the capital project. They're still acquiring the required construction permits from various regulatory agencies before we go out to bid on the project. The anticipation is that we're going to have all of those in hand by the end of April, beginning of May here. Once that's done, then they'll release the information for bid. Until we require all those permits and make sure that there's nothing additional we don't know, they don't want to go out to bid and then have to go back and say, this agency said we needed to do this, and now we got to change the project scope. So until they get all of those permits, we're still in a little bit of a holding pattern, but they're requiring them, and I think we're getting closer to the end. Mhm.
Okay, building and grounds, Mr. Zaritsky, he's unavailable this evening. In fact, I think he's out of town. So
Well, that's what we did. I thought, did I not do it?
what's that?
Did I jump in too early? Yeah, I did.
You could have.
I jumped in too early.
That's okay. Number one, to approve, confirm the following building usage request pending final approval from the superintendent regarding the review of the organization's health and safety plan, as well as liability waiver sign off. The building is the first item, organization is the second, the date, or dates, and the last column is the purpose. I have a motion, number one.
So move.
So moved by Mr. Ross as a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes, any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries.
You can insert all my comments about the building project now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Personnel item, Mr. Bloom.
Yes. We need to approve additions for the 2021-2022 substitute list pending receipt, review, and acceptance of all clearances found on attachment E. Two, and approve an FMLA leave request for an education support professional employee from April 25th, 2022 through July 18th, 2022. Number three, to approve the retirement of the following professional employees and prior participation in the retirement incentive plan effective June 30th, 2022, on attachment F. The names are listed there, A through I. Can we read them?
You don't have to.
Okay, they're there. Okay. Number four, to approve the retirement of the following education support professional employees for participation in the retirement incentive plan effective June 30th, 2022, found in attachment G. Number five, to approve the retirement of Marianne DeVito, paraprofessional, effective June 30th, 2022, it's found in attachment H. To approve the resignation of Danielle Smittyman, paraprofessional, effective March 30th, 2022, attachment I. Number seven, to approve Kelly Colonia as a cafeteria general worker, 3¼ hours at a rate of $12.50 an hour in accordance with the CVEA agreement, pending receipt, review, and acceptance of all clearances, effective April 22nd, 2022. Any other additions, Dr. Perry?
That is all.
I so move. I have a second. Mr. Moad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item I, finance items. To approve resolution BCCTC 2022-2023. The 2022-2023 Beaver County Career and Technology Center General Fund budget of $6,445,645 on attachment J. So move.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ross. All in favor? Any no? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, at this time, we would open up the agenda for public comment.
Me again. I just have a couple quick questions. When you looked at the reading series, did we look at what other districts in our county are using, or if anyone else in the state is using this particular Amplify curriculum? And if so, what their test scores were in comparison to ours? Or nationwide, if we looked at that, what test scores are compared to ours or in our state? And if just Googling this curriculum real quick while you were doing the presentation.
Pardon me, I didn't hear you.
Just while you're doing the presentation, I just Googled the curriculum really quick, just to look at what people are saying on the internet about it. A lot of the comments were that the materials were going over the heads of the kids, that the vocabulary and a lot of the subject matter was very advanced and was going over the kids' heads in K through 2. So I don't know if that was something that was brought up by any of the teachers, but that's like the initial response when you Google it. So just provide that feedback. And like I said, the questions on if we've compared test scores with this program, or if we know any other districts in the state that are using it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. I'd like to turn it over on the item K, our superintendent items and comments.
I'd just like to thank the teachers, administrators who were involved in all the hard work and months that you put into looking at potential reading programs. Greatly appreciated all your time and efforts. I also want to congratulate and wish good luck to all of our staff who's retiring. We're certainly losing a large number of employees who are going on to, their next phase in life or professional career, whatever they may be. And I just want to wish them all good luck and thank them for their service to the children of Central Valley.
Okay, let's open it up for board comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Ross.
Okay, just like to echo what Dr. Perry mentioned about our people that are retiring from our district that have spent quite a few years with us and have done a great job for us, and wish them the best in their retirement, in their future retirement, and hope that things work out well for them. And again, to the committee for doing the work and the teaching staff that put the time and effort into researching this a new reading series.
Thank you.
Ditto to Mr. Ross and Dr. Perry.
Okay. Mr. Moad?
One thing I noticed just walking in, I came in the front entrance, I noticed the banners based on, best in the county for our Keystone exams. I like to see that we're putting not just athletic banners up, but we're also putting academic banners up. I like to brag about those things. I think those are hard earned by our teachers and our students. I'm glad to see those up there. And as for the teachers that are retiring and the support people, you have a profound impact, not just on the students here, but on your community. And I thank you for all the work you put in over the years, whether you're teachers or any other support staff. It's a tremendous impact on our community. And we're blessed to have had you, and we wish you well.
Thank you for those comments.
I don't have anything other than what everybody else said.
Mr. King?
Just want to wish these retiring staff members good luck in retirement. And just a ballpark figure, you're talking 200 years worth of experience we're losing. So we got our work cut out for us in interviews.
That we do. I just have a little kudos here. I think each of us were given a synopsis of the trip to San Diego. I'd like to commend Mr. Bloom for not only going, paying most of his way there, okay, and providing a 3-page layout of all the things he attended. I happened to make one trip in all my years on the board to one of these. And trust me, Mr. Bloom and his wife, they go to every meeting and they take notes, both of them, on every situation, because I know I sat there alongside them. Thank you very much for this.
I want to thank the board and administrators for the opportunity to go. Like I said, we were going, and it was a blessing to do the registration. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And any final comments?
I think we're good.
Again, appreciate your time. With that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Mr. Moad, seconded by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.